On a rain-slicked downtown street, James Porter, tech billionaire and pillar of industry, paused beneath his umbrella. 20 feet ahead, an elderly man hunched on a soggy cardboard mat, meticulously arranging copper pennies into neat stacks. With trembling fingers, something in the man's determined focus made Porter stop. Kneeling beside him, Porter offered to help count. The homeless man nodded gratefully, revealing a weathered face mapped with hardship. As they worked together, Porter noticed something pinned to the threadbare coat, a tarnished military badge, its insignia instantly recognizable. Porter's heart stopped. It was the exact unit his father had served in during Vietnam, the one he'd heard stories about his entire life. Could this broken man be one of the heroes from his father's tales? What secret connection might exist between this forgotten veteran and Porter's own family legacy? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. James Porter's corner office gleamed with success. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Seattle's skyline, his empire below. At 45, he'd built Porter Tech into a billion-dollar company, yet something felt hollow. "Your 2 p.m. cancelled," said Emily, his assistant. Porter nodded, attention fixed. On the military photo on his desk, his father in uniform, smiling with fellow soldiers. "Dad, would you be proud?" he whispered. The rain-soaked homeless veteran's face haunted him. That badge, his father's unit. What were the odds? Porter made a decision. "Emily, clear my schedule tomorrow. I need to find someone." Samuel Williams woke with the sun, his 68-year-old joints protesting against the concrete alcove he'd claimed for shelter. The rain had stopped, but his cardboard mat remained damp. He sat up, instinctively clutching the tattered duffel, bag that contained everything he owned. "Morning, Sam," called Marcus, another veteran who slept in the adjacent doorway. "Coffee run in 20. Sam nodded, carefully folding his threadbare blanket. Unlike some on the streets, he maintained strict routines, military habits that had survived decades of civilian life and homelessness. He reached into his duffel, retrieving a small tin where he kept his pennies. Counting them was both practical and therapeutic. 73 cents now, just $12.27 short of what he needed for his prescription. The VA benefits had snarled again, something about paperwork and verification. Sam had stopped arguing months ago. The military badge pinned to his coat caught the morning light. Special Forces 5th Group, a reminder of another life, when he had purpose and brotherhood. Sometimes he wondered why he kept it. Other times it seemed the only proof he had ever mattered. "You coming, Sam?" Marcus was ready for their daily trek to the shelter for free coffee. "Yeah." Sam tucked the tin away and hauled himself upright, ignoring the shooting pain in his left knee, an old war souvenir that the damp weather always aggravated. The men walked in comfortable silence toward St. Michael's, where volunteers served breakfast to those who could make it by 7:30. Sam appreciated their kindness, but hated the mixture of pity and fear in some volunteers' eyes. "He wasn't an animal or a cautionary tale." "That rich fella talked to you yesterday?" Marcus asked suddenly. Sam's mind flashed to the well-dressed man who had knelt beside him in the rain, helping count pennies with manicured hands. "Yeah, weird, right? Suits don't usually stop." Sam shrugged. Seemed decent enough. He didn't mention the man's reaction to his badge, how his eyes had widened in recognition. At St. Michael's, Sam collected his coffee and oatmeal, nodding thanks. To the young volunteer, he chose his usual corner table, back to the wall, full view of the exits, tactical positioning ingrained from combat. As he ate, his mind drifted to the operation in 71. Laos, though officially they were never there. His unit dropped in to extract intelligence assets, but the extraction point had been compromised. Half the team killed in the first ambush, the rest captured. Only 3 made it home eventually, including Sam. Even now, certain sounds, helicopter, Rotors, fireworks, a car backfiring could throw him straight back into that jungle. "Need a refill, Mr. Williams?" The volunteer's voice pulled him from the past. "No thanks, son. I'm good." Sam never took more than his share. After breakfast, he'd head to the public library, warm, quiet, and with free newspapers. Maybe check the job boards, though no one wanted to hire a senior citizen with spotty employment history and no fixed address. Before his health deteriorated, he'd found occasional work as a night watchman or janitor, jobs where his hypervigilance was an asset rather than a liability. As Sam left the shelter, he patted his coat pocket, making sure his pennies were secure. 73 cents closer to his medication. If he could collect some recyclables today, maybe another $1 or so. Small victories. The rich man's business card was also in his pocket, though Sam wasn't sure why he'd kept it. James Porter, CEO, Porter Tech Solutions. Sam had never heard of it, but the paper was thick, expensive. The man had seemed genuinely affected by Sam's badge. Strange encounter. Probably nothing would come of it. Sam adjusted his worn cap and headed toward the library, his duffel bag slung over his shoulder, containing his worldly possessions and fragments of a forgotten hero's past. James Porter had his driver circle downtown for the third consecutive day. The sleek black Tesla moved slowly through streets where luxury vehicles seldom lingered. "There," Porter pointed, spotting the familiar hunched figure on the same corner. "Pull over." His driver, Thomas, raised an eyebrow but complied. "Sir, would you like me to—" "Wait here," Porter said, already opening his door. The day was unseasonably clear for Seattle, sunlight illuminating the street where Sam sat with his back against a building, military cap beside him containing a few scattered coins. Porter approached carefully, conscious of his tailored suit and Italian shoes, a stark contrast to Sam's worn existence. "Good morning," Porter said, stopping a respectful distance away. Sam looked up, recognition flickering in his eyes. "Morning. I was hoping to find you again." Porter gestured to a cafe across the street. "Could I buy you a coffee? Maybe something to eat?" Sam studied him with the calculated assessment of someone who'd learned to be wary of unexpected kindness. "Why?" The directness caught Porter off guard. In his corporate world, people rarely questioned his motives so bluntly. "Your badge," Porter said honestly. "My father served in that unit, Vietnam, 68 through 71. Sam's expression shifted subtly. "What's your father's name?" "William Porter." Everyone called him Bill. Sam's weathered face revealed nothing, but he slowly gathered his meager belongings and stood. "Coffee's fine." Inside the cafe, heads turned as the odd pair entered, the impeccably dressed executive and the disheveled veteran. Porter ignored the stares, leading Sam to a corner table that offered privacy. After ordering, black coffee for Sam, a latte for Porter, and 2 breakfast sandwiches, an awkward silence settled between them. "Your card says Porter Tech," Sam finally offered. "That's computers?" Porter nodded. "Cybersecurity and cloud solutions primarily. We secure data for corporations and governments." "Sounds important. It pays the bills." Porter smiled slightly. "Did you know my father, William Porter?" Sam wrapped gnarled fingers around the warm coffee mug. "Porter? There was a Lieutenant Porter in our unit. Tall guy, Massachusetts accent?" "That sounds right. He was from Boston." Sam nodded slowly. "I remember a Porter. Good officer. Respected by the men." He took a careful sip of coffee. "Been a long time, though. Memory's not what it used to be." Porter leaned forward. "My father passed away 15 years ago. Cancer. But he always spoke about his unit with such respect. Like you were all family." "War does that," Sam said simply. "Makes brothers or enemies. Not much in between." The sandwiches arrived and Sam ate methodically, with the efficiency of someone who'd learned that meals weren't guaranteed. Porter barely touched his own food, fascinated by this living connection to his father's past. "What happened to you?" Porter asked. "After the war." Sam's jaw tightened. "Came back, worked construction until my knees gave out. then security, then... He gestured vaguely to himself. Life happens. Do you have family? Anyone I could contact for you? No. The word had a finality that discouraged further questions. When they finished, Porter reached into his pocket and placed a business card on the table, identical to the one he'd given Sam days earlier. My personal number is on the back, Porter said. If you need anything, a meal, a place to stay, medical care, please call. Sam pocketed the card without looking at it. Why are you doing this? Porter considered his answer carefully. My father always said we owe a debt to the men who served alongside us. I never served myself, but I'd like to honor his words. Sam stood abruptly. Thank you for the coffee. Can I find you here if I wanted to talk again? Sam paused at the door. I'm around. He hesitated, then added, Your father, was he on the Laos extraction? November 71. Porter's breath caught. He never discussed specific missions, but I think so. There was something that happened overseas that changed him. Sam nodded once, his expression unreadable, then walked out into the sunlight. Porter sat alone in his home office, the room illuminated only by his computer screen and a small desk lamp. Outside, Seattle's skyline twinkled beneath a clear night sky. He'd cancelled his evening engagements, consumed by the morning's conversation. The Laos extraction. His father had never mentioned Laos specifically, but there were always gaps in his war stories, moments when William Porter would go quiet, his eyes distant. Porter opened a drawer and removed a leather-bound album he hadn't touched in years. Inside were his father's military photographs, carefully preserved. He turned the pages slowly until he found what he was looking for, a group photo of his father's unit. 20 men in jungle fatigues, some smiling, others with the 1,000-yard stare of combat veterans. His phone buzzed. Emily, his assistant. Did you find anything? Porter asked without preamble. It wasn't easy, Emily replied, but I called in favors with that Pentagon contact from the cybersecurity contract. Samuel Williams, born 1957, enlisted 1968, Special Forces by 1970, served with distinction in Vietnam through 1972, and after that, honorable discharge in 1973. There's a gap in his employment history from 73 to 75, likely readjustment period. Then construction work, security jobs, marriage in 78, divorce in 86. Last stable address was 2018, before medical bills apparently wiped him out. Porter frowned. Medical issues? VA records show treatment for PTSD, chronic knee and back injuries, early-stage emphysema. He stopped showing up for appointments in 2019. What about the Laos mission? November 71? A pause. That's where it gets interesting. Most records from that operation are still classified, but there was a notation about a cross-border extraction that went sideways. Heavy casualties. Your father is mentioned as one of the few who made it out. Porter's gaze returned to the photograph, and Williams, listed as MIA, presumed dead. Then 18 months later, reclassified as a returned POW. There's a medical file that's sealed, but the summary mentions extensive injuries consistent with prolonged captivity and interrogation. Porter closed his eyes, imagining what that clinical language might conceal. There's one more thing, Emily added. Williams received the Silver Star, but the citation is heavily redacted. Something about heroic actions that saved multiple American lives during the extraction attempt, including my father's? Possibly. The names are redacted. Porter thanked Emily and ended the call. He studied the photograph again, scanning the faces. In the back row, a younger, straighter version of the homeless man he'd met stood shoulder to shoulder with his father. His doorbell rang, surprising him. At this hour, visitors were unusual. Porter made his way downstairs to find his mother. Catherine, on his doorstep. Mum, is everything okay? Catherine Porter, elegant at 72, entered with purpose. Your assistant called me. She said you've been asking about your father's service, about Laos. Porter led her to the living room. "I met someone from Dad's unit, a man named Samuel Williams." Catherine froze. Sam Williams is alive?" "You knew him." She sank onto the sofa. "Your father tried to find him for years. After he came home, Bill was different. He would wake up screaming Sam's name." "What happened in Laos, Mom?" Catherine stared at her hands. "Bill wouldn't talk about the details, but I know they were sent to extract someone important. They were ambushed. Your father made it to the extraction point with 3 others, but Sam stayed behind to hold off the enemy. They thought he died there. He didn't. He was captured, held for over a year. Dear God." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "Bill never forgave himself. He believed he should have stayed with Sam. Why didn't Dad ever mention this? The mission was classified, and the guilt, it consumed him. That's why he started the foundation for veterans originally. It was his way of atoning." Porter remembered how, after his father's death, the foundation's focus had shifted away from veterans' causes under the board's direction. "I need to see everything Dad kept from that time," Porter said. Catherine nodded. "There's a footlocker in my attic. It has all of Bill's military papers, journals, everything he saved. I'll have it brought over tomorrow." She gripped her son's hand. "James, if Sam Williams is alive and in need, we owe him more than we can ever repay." The military footlocker sat in Porter's living room, its olive green paint chipped with age. Catherine had delivered it as promised, then left her son to explore its contents privately. For hours, Porter sifted through the physical remnants of his father's military service, dog tags, medals, field manuals, and dozens of letters. Near the bottom, he found a locked metal box. The key, attached to his father's dog tags, slid smoothly into the lock despite decades of disuse. Inside lay a leather-bound journal and a yellowed newspaper clipping. Porter unfolded the clipping carefully, a small article about a classified operation, successful extraction of intelligence assets from hostile territory. Listed at the bottom were the names of the unit members. Most had been redacted in the published version, but his father had written in the missing names, including S. Williams. Porter opened the journal, recognizing his father's handwriting. "November 18, 1971, we're going in tomorrow. Extraction mission, high-value intelligence officer and family. Sam says it feels wrong, too rushed, too many unknowns. I trust his instincts, but orders are orders. November 20th, 1971, ambush. Everything went to hell. They knew we were coming. Parker, Jensen, Rodriguez, gone in the first minutes. We got the assets, but they were following us. Sam took point, found us a cave network to hide in before extraction. November 21st, 1971. Extraction point compromised, surrounded. Sam created a diversion, drew them away from our position. Told us to get the assets out when the chopper came. Last I saw him, he was drawing fire from at least 20 hostiles. No way he survived. But we got out. Me, Davis, Thompson, and the assets. Because of Sam. The entries continued, documenting his father's return home, his growing guilt, his nightmares. Then, a jarring entry 18 months later, July 4th, 1973, called into base today. Impossible news. They found Sam alive, held in a prison camp near the border, being transported to Walter Reed. They say he's in bad shape but alive. Thank God. Thank God. July 6th, 1973. Saw Sam today. Almost didn't recognize him. 30 pounds. Lighter, scars everywhere. Eyes different, like the light's gone out. He barely spoke. Doctor says he needs time. I tried to apologize for leaving him. He just shook his head and said, "You had orders." When I left, he said, "Don't come back, Lieutenant. Some ghosts should stay buried." July 20th, 1973. Sam's being discharged. I've called every day, but he refuses to see me. His nurse says he's going to stay with a cousin in Oregon. Left my contact information, made her promise to give it to him. If he ever needs anything at all, I'll be there. It's the least I can do. The final relevant entry was dated 3 years later, October 15th, 1976. Started the foundation today. If Sam won't let me help him directly, I'll help others like him. Catherine says it's guilt driving me. Maybe she's right. But every night I still see him standing there telling us to go, knowing he wasn't getting out. I lived the life he should have had. Built a business, had a son, watched him grow. Sam gave me that. The least I can do is try to give something back. Porter closed the journal, emotions churning. His father had tried to make amends, but Sam had pushed him away. And now, decades later, Sam was counting pennies on a Seattle street corner, while Porter lived in luxury, a luxury made possible in part by his father's survival. His phone rang. The caller ID showed Emily. "I found something else," she said without greeting. After Sam's release, the military awarded him the Distinguished Service Cross, just shy of the Medal of Honor. But he never collected it. The citation states he single-handedly engaged enemy forces to create a diversion that allowed the extraction of high-value intelligence assets and surviving team members. "My father," Porter whispered. "Yes. According to this report, your father specifically testified about Williams's actions. The medal remains unclaimed to this day." Porter stared at the footlocker. "Thank you, Emily." He hung up and reached for his father's dog tags, sliding them over his head. The metal felt cool against his skin, a tangible connection to both his father and the man who had saved him. 3 days passed before Porter found Sam again, this time outside the public library. The veteran sat on a bench, reading a worn paperback with careful attention. "Hello, Sam," Porter said, approaching slowly. Sam looked up, unsurprised. "Mr. Porter!" He marked his page with a faded receipt. "James, please." Porter gestured to the empty space beside him. "May I?" Sam nodded, shifting slightly to make room. "What are you reading?" Porter asked, settling onto the bench. Sam showed him the cover, a historical account of the Vietnam War. "Trying to see if they got it right. They never do." Porter nodded, then reached into his coat and withdrew his father's dog tags. "These were my father's." Sam's weathered hands remained motionless on his book. His eyes, however, fixed on the tags with an intensity that spoke volumes. "I found his journal," Porter continued quietly. "He wrote about what happened in Laos, about what you did." "That was classified," Sam said, his voice flat. "Not to family, apparently. My father kept records." Porter hesitated. "He tried to find you after you were rescued." "He found me." Sam turned away, watching a young couple walk past with a stroller. "I didn't want to be found." "Why?" Sam was silent for so long that Porter thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he sighed. "Your father was a good man, good officer. He had a life to get back to, a pregnant wife, bright future." He shrugged. "I just had ghosts." He felt guilty for leaving you behind. He had orders. The assets were priority. "I knew what I was doing." Sam's voice remained steady, but his fingers had tightened on his book. Porter chose his next words carefully. "I'd like to help you, Sam." A bitter smile crossed the veteran's face. "Like father, like son. Maybe. Is that so wrong? I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's—" Porter searched for the right word. "Repayment of a debt." Sam finally turned. To look at him directly. "You don't owe me anything. My father's life, my existence, the company I built." Porter met his gaze. "I'd say that's a considerable debt." Sam returned to watching the passers-by. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Dinner, to start with. A real dinner at my home. After that, a place to stay, medical care." "No." Sam's response was immediate. Porter had anticipated resistance. "Just dinner, then. Tonight. We can discuss the rest." Sam ran a hand over his unshaven jaw. "Why is this so important to you?" "Because it should have been important to someone decades ago." Porter stood, offering Sam his business card again, the third one. My driver can pick you up at 6. The address is on the back. Sam took the card, studying it as if it might contain hidden dangers. I'm not good company, Mr. Porter. James. And I'm not looking for entertainment, just a chance to talk. Porter started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Sam, there's a Distinguished Service Cross waiting for you at the VA. Has been since 1973. Thought you might want to... No. He left then, feeling Sam's eyes on his back but not turning around. As he reached his car, his phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Did he agree? Porter typed his response. Not yet, but he will. That evening, Porter's chef prepared a simple but elegant meal: pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. Comfort food, nothing pretentious. Porter had specifically requested dishes that would be familiar to someone of Sam's generation. At 6:15, Porter was beginning to think Sam wouldn't come. Then, at 6:23, the security system announced a visitor. Porter opened his front door to find Sam standing awkwardly on the porch, wearing the same clothes as earlier, but with visible attempts to neaten his appearance. His grey hair had been combed, his face freshly shaved, though with a few nicks that suggested an unsteady hand. You came, Porter said, unable to hide his surprise. Said I would. Sam held up the dog-eared business card. This is the last one. I'm keeping, getting to be a collection. Porter smiled and stepped aside. Please, come in. Sam hesitated at the threshold, like a man about to step into unknown territory without reconnaissance. Finally, with a deep breath, he entered, crossing a boundary far more significant than the mere doorway of a wealthy man's home. Dinner had gone better than Porter expected. Though initially stiff and guarded, Sam gradually relaxed as the evening progressed. They avoided discussing Laos directly, instead sharing stories about William Porter, Sam's memories of him as a young lieutenant, Porter's recollections of him as a father. By dessert, Sam had even smiled once or twice, the expression transforming his weathered face. When Porter renewed his offer of help at the end of the evening, Sam had neither accepted nor refused outright. I'll think about it, he'd said, before allowing Porter's driver to take him back downtown. For the next week, Porter tried to maintain contact, but Sam proved elusive. The corner where he'd often sat remained empty. The shelter staff hadn't seen him. Even Marcus, the veteran who often shared Sam's doorway, claimed ignorance of his whereabouts. Disappearing is a survival skill, Marcus had told Porter when he'd pressed. Give him time. 10 days after their dinner, Porter's phone rang at 2:17 a.m. The number was unfamiliar. Hello? He answered, instantly alert. This Porter? The voice was gruff, unfamiliar. Yes, this is James Porter. Found your card in Sam's pocket. He's bad off, man, real bad. Porter sat up, fully awake now. Where is he? What happened? Corner of Pike and 3rd. Collapsed about an hour ago. Ambulance just took him. Harborview Medical Center. Porter was already pulling on clothes. Who is this? Just a friend. Better hurry. The line went dead. 30 minutes later, Porter strode into Harborview's emergency department, his authority and wealth creating a path where others might have encountered resistance. A tired-looking doctor met him near the trauma rooms. Mr. Porter? I'm Dr. Kazan. You're listed as Mr. Williams's emergency contact. Porter blinked in surprise. Sam must have updated his information recently. How is he? Stable for now. Severe pneumonia, dehydration, malnutrition. He's also showing signs of untreated PTSD and possibly early-stage dementia. Dr. Kazan's expression was grave. His living situation has exacerbated his conditions significantly. What can I do? Right now, nothing but wait. We're treating the immediate issues, but he needs long-term care, proper nutrition, medication adherence. She fixed Porter with a direct look. He can't go back to the streets, not if you want him to survive. Porter nodded. He won't have to. Can I see him? Dr. Kazan led him to a curtained area. Sam lay unconscious, oxygen mask covering his face, IV lines snaking from both arms. His skin had a greyish pallor that made the scars, visible now on his neck and arms, stand out in stark relief. Monitors beeped steadily, the only reassurance that life remained in the frail body. "We're moving him to ICU shortly," Dr. Kazan said. "You should go home, get some rest. We'll call if there's any change." Porter shook his head. "I'll stay." And stay he did. Through the night, through Sam's transfer to ICU, through the worried consultations of medical staff. He made calls, ensuring Sam received the best care available, specialist consulted, private room arranged, no expense spared. Dawn found Porter dozing in an uncomfortable chair beside Sam's bed. A sudden sound, a change in the rhythm of breathing, jerked him awake. Sam's eyes were open, confused but conscious. "Sam." Porter leaned forward. Sam's gaze wandered the room before settling on Porter. Recognition dawned slowly. He weakly raised a hand to remove the oxygen mask. "Don't," Porter began. "Where?" Sam's voice was a rasp. "Harbor View. You collapsed." "Someone called me." Sam closed his eyes briefly. "Marcus told him not to." "I'm glad he did." Porter hesitated. "It's bad, Sam. Pneumonia, other issues." A faint, bitter smile crossed Sam's face. "Survived numb to die in Seattle." "You're not dying," Porter said firmly. "Not if I have anything to say about it." Sam studied him through half-closed eyes. "Why do you care so much?" The question hung between them. Porter touched the dog tags he still wore beneath his shirt. "My father once wrote that he lived the life you should have had," he said quietly. "Because of what you did in Laos." Sam's eyes drifted toward the ceiling. "Just did my job." "You saved his life, my mother's, mine, indirectly." Porter leaned closer. "I've never had the chance to thank the man who made my existence possible." Sam's eyes had closed again, fatigue overwhelming him. But as he drifted back to sleep, his hand moved, just slightly, until his fingers brushed against Porter's on the bed rail. A connection, tentative but real. Porter didn't move away. 2 weeks in the hospital had improved Sam's physical condition, but the doctors were clear. Full recovery required ongoing care, proper nutrition, and stable housing. Porter's solution sat at the end of his property, a well-appointed guest house, originally built for his mother before she'd decided she preferred her downtown condo. "It's just sitting empty," Porter explained as he helped Sam out of the car. "You'd be doing me a favor keeping it maintained." Sam leaned heavily on a walker, his breathing still labored despite significant improvement. He eyed the guest house with undisguised suspicion. "I don't need charity," he said, for perhaps the dozenth time. Porter had prepared for this. "It's not charity, it's practical. Your doctors are nearby, I can ensure you make your appointments, and frankly, I could use your insight on something I'm working on." "What insight could I possibly offer a tech billionaire?" Sam's tone was skeptical, but Porter detected curiosity beneath it. "You'll see. First, let's get you settled." The guest house was a single-story structure with wide doorways and minimal steps, originally designed with aging in mind. Porter had made additional modifications during Sam's hospital stay: grab bars in the bathroom, a medical alert system, a specialized bed that would ease Sam's chronic back pain. Sam moved through the space slowly, taking it all in. His possessions, the contents of his duffel bag, cleaned and organized, waited on the dresser. Among them, his military badge, now polished to reveal its original shine. "Someone cleaned my badge," Sam observed. "My mother," Porter admitted. "She wanted to help somehow." Sam picked it up, running his thumb over the emblem. "Your father had one just like it." "I know." She kept it. They stood in awkward silence until Porter mentioned lunch waiting in the kitchen. As they ate the simple meal of soup and sandwiches, Porter outlined the rehabilitation plan the doctors had recommended: physical therapy 3 times weekly, psychiatric care for the PTSD, proper medication. "And what do you get out of this?" Sam asked bluntly. Porter considered the question. "Perspective, maybe. Peace of mind, certainly." "Because of your father?" "Partially." Porter hesitated. But it's more than that now. I want to help because it's the right thing to do. Sam's eyes, sharper now than during their first encounters, studied Porter intently. You really believe that, don't you? I do. Sam nodded slowly. 1 month. I'll stay 1 month, get back on my feet. Then we reassess. He held up a hand as Porter began to respond. Non-negotiable. I need to maintain some control here. 1 month, Porter agreed. But I meant what I said about needing your insight. Over the following weeks, a routine developed. Sam attended his medical appointments without complaint, though he grumbled about the psychiatric sessions. Porter visited daily, sometimes bringing work to do silently, while Sam read or watched the news. Gradually they began to talk, really talk. One evening, as they sat on the guest house porch watching the sunset, Porter finally asked about Laos. Your father never told you? Sam seemed surprised. Only that it went bad, that you saved them. Sam was quiet for a long time. We weren't supposed to be there. Officially, that operation never happened. I understand. No, you don't. Sam's voice held no anger, only certainty. Nobody does except the men who were there. He took a deep breath. But your father, he was a good officer, cared about his men. When things went sideways, he kept his head, got the assets moving toward extraction while I set up a defensive position. The journal said you created a diversion. Sam's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. Fancy way of saying I made enough noise to draw them away from your father's group. He shrugged. Simple tactics. That resulted in your capture and torture. War is hell. Sam's gaze remained on the horizon. Your father would have done the same for any of us. Porter wasn't sure that was true, but he didn't argue. What happened after you were found? Military hospitals, debriefings, eventually discharge, and a handful of medals I never claimed. Sam's voice had gone flat. They offered rehabilitation, but I just wanted out. Away from everything. Including my father? Sam nodded slowly. Especially your father. Seeing him, it brought everything back. And now? Porter asked quietly. Seeing me. Sam turned, really looking at Porter. You're not him. Similar in some ways, but... He paused. You listen differently. He always wanted to fix things. You seem to want to understand them first. Porter hadn't expected such insight. Is that good? It's why I'm still here, Sam said simply, and turned back to watch the final rays of sunlight disappear beyond the horizon. 3 weeks into Sam's stay, Porter arrived at the guest house earlier than usual, carrying a garment bag and a small box. What's this? Sam asked, eyeing the item suspiciously. Remember I mentioned needing your insight on something? Porter hung the garment bag on a doorframe. Today's the day. How do you feel about visiting my office? Sam's expression shifted from confusion to wariness. Why? We're conducting a security audit, testing vulnerabilities in our physical systems. Porter opened the garment bag, revealing a simple but well-tailored suit. I'd value your perspective. Sam's eyebrows rose. My perspective on corporate security? You spent years as a security consultant according to your employment records. Porter kept his tone casual. Plus, military training in tactical assessment never really fades, does it? This is the something you're working on? Using me as a security consultant? Porter nodded. My chief security officer has become complacent. We need fresh eyes. Sam studied Porter's face, clearly searching for deception. This isn't charity. It's a legitimate consulting opportunity. Paid. Porter gestured to the suit. Consider this your uniform for the day. An hour later, they pulled into the underground parking at Porter Tech headquarters. Sam had said little during the drive, but Porter noticed how his eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, assessing, evaluating. The security habits of decades hadn't faded. In the elevator, Porter handed Sam a visitor badge. This gives you standard access. See what you can get into with it. Sam clipped the badge to his lapel. The suit transformed him, still thin from his illness, but dignified, professional. You're asking me to try to breach your security. Within reason, no hacking, no breaking and entering. Just see how far legitimate-looking confidence will get you. The elevator opened onto the executive floor. Emily waited, tablet in hand. Mr. Williams, welcome to Porter Tech. She offered her hand with professional courtesy, betraying no hint that she'd researched his entire history. I've arranged a temporary office for you during the assessment. Sam shook her hand, his posture straightening almost imperceptibly. Thank you, Mom. Porter suppressed a smile. Emily will show you around while I attend a meeting. We'll reconvene at noon. As the day progressed, Porter received periodic updates. From Emily. Sam had toured the building, asked insightful questions, and most tellingly, gained access to 3 restricted areas simply by looking like he belonged there. At their noon meeting, Sam handed Porter a notepad filled with observations. Your front desk security is adequate but easily distracted. Your server room has biometric access, but the maintenance entrance doesn't. And your executive floor. Sam shook his head. Anyone in a decent suit can walk right in. Porter reviewed the notes, impressed by their thoroughness. These are excellent observations. Basic stuff. Your security team should know better. There was no judgment in Sam's voice, just professional assessment. What would you recommend? Sam outlined several immediate changes: rotating security personnel, improved tailgating prevention, better visitor controls. His suggestions were practical, cost-effective, and showed a deep understanding of human behavior as the weakest security link. When they finished, Porter leaned back. Would you be willing to present these findings to my security team tomorrow? Sam hesitated. I'm not sure that's appropriate. I'm not an employee. You could be. The words left Porter's mouth before he'd fully formed the thought. Sam's expression closed. I don't need charity, Porter finished. I know this isn't that. This is a legitimate job offer based on skills you clearly still possess. I'm 70 years old, Porter, and recovering from pneumonia. Age discrimination is illegal, Porter said mildly, and we can accommodate your recovery. Part-time consulting to start. Sam studied the notepad between them. What exactly would I be doing? Security consulting, vulnerability assessment, training our team to think more tactically. Porter leaned forward. You spent decades keeping people safe. That knowledge has value. For the first time since they'd met, genuine surprise showed on Sam's face. You're serious. Completely. Sam was quiet for a long moment. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Porter stood. For now, let's get lunch. The cafeteria here is actually decent. As they walked through the office, Porter noticed heads turning. His employees weren't used to seeing him personally escort visitors around. Near the finance department, the CFO approached with a questioning, Look, James, I thought we had a budget meeting at 1. We do. Mark Anderson, this is Samuel Williams, security consultant and... Porter paused, then added with deliberate emphasis, Vietnam veteran Special Forces. Sam served with my father. Mark's demeanor changed instantly, offering his hand with new respect. An honor to meet you, sir. Thank you for your service. Sam accepted the handshake with quiet dignity. Just doing my job. As they continued toward the cafeteria, Porter noticed something subtle but significant. Sam walked taller, his gait more purposeful. For perhaps the first time in decades, he was being seen, not as a homeless veteran, an object of pity or invisibility, but as a person of value with expertise to offer. The employee badge in the box remained in Porter's pocket, waiting for Sam's decision. But Porter already knew what that decision would be. Sam accepted Porter's job offer the following day, starting as a part-time security consultant. Over the next 2 weeks, he transformed Porter Tech's security protocols, bringing military precision to corporate vulnerability assessment. Employees quickly learned to respect the quiet, observant veteran who could spot weaknesses no one else noticed. Porter watched this transformation with satisfaction, but remained troubled by unfinished business. His contacts at the Pentagon had finally come through with the complete, declassified file on the Laos operation. It sat on his desk now, marked with faded, top-secret stamps that had been officially crossed out. When Sam arrived for their weekly briefing, Porter closed his office door. "Something came in that you should see." He indicated the file. Sam's eyes fixed on the folder, recognition and wariness crossing his face. "Where did you get that?" "Freedom of Information Act, plus some corporate leverage." Porter slid the file across the desk. "The mission has been declassified. All of it." Sam made no move to touch the file. "Some things are better left in the past." "I thought so too, until I read it." Porter's voice was gentle but firm. "You never told me everything that happened after you created the diversion." Sam's jaw tightened. "Wasn't relevant. It's extremely relevant." Porter opened the file, turning it so Sam could see the citation within. "Distinguished Service Cross. Recommended. For upgrade to Medal of Honor. Never awarded because you refused to attend the ceremony." "Medals don't mean anything," Sam said flatly. "The citation says you held off more than 30 enemy combatants alone, allowing the extraction to proceed. It says you were wounded 3 times but continued fighting. It says when capture was inevitable, you destroyed the classified documents you were carrying, enduring." Porter's voice faltered as he read the clinical description of torture. Sam stood abruptly, turning to look out the window. "Ancient history. You saved my father, the intelligence officer, his family, and 2 other team members. You were presumed dead for 18 months while enduring unimaginable conditions." Porter closed the file. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it doesn't matter." Sam's voice was tight with controlled emotion. "We all did what we had to do. It matters to me. It matters to the country you served." Porter stood and moved beside Sam at the window. "There's more. The Pentagon wants to make this right. A formal ceremony, proper recognition, the medal you earned." Sam turned, eyes blazing. "After 50 years? Why now?" "Because I pushed for it. Because it's never too late to acknowledge heroism. I'm not a hero." Sam's voice was suddenly tired. "Heroes don't wake up screaming for 50 years. Heroes don't end up counting pennies on street corners." Porter chose his next words carefully. "The military psychiatrist who examined you after your rescue wrote that you showed exceptional moral courage and resilience beyond what could reasonably be expected of any soldier. That wasn't written for publicity or medals. It was a private medical assessment." Sam's gaze dropped to the file. After a long moment he picked it up, turning pages slowly. His expression remained neutral, but his hands trembled slightly. "There were others who deserved recognition more," he finally said. "Johnson died pulling me to cover before I set up the diversion. Rodriguez stepped on a mine while carrying the intelligence officer's child. Their families received their medals." Porter said quietly, "You're the only one whose sacrifice went unrecognized." Sam closed the file and handed it back to Porter. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A proper military ceremony. The Pentagon would present your Distinguished Service Cross and the Medal of Honor upgrade they've finally approved. Full honors, with respect for your privacy if you prefer a small ceremony." Sam shook his head. "I don't need that kind of attention." "It's not about attention. It's about closure." Porter hesitated. "And it's about the 16 men in your unit who didn't come home. Don't they deserve to have the full story told? Don't they deserve to have the world know what you all sacrificed?" The mention of his fallen comrades visibly affected Sam. His shoulders sagged, not in defeat but in remembrance. "I'll think about it," he said finally. Porter nodded, knowing better than to push further. "That's all I ask." As Sam turned to leave, Porter added, "One more thing. My mother would like to see you. She remembers you from when my father was first deployed. Apparently you came to dinner once before shipping out." A ghost of a smile crossed Sam's face. "Catherine, red dress, apple pie." "That's her." Porter smiled. "Still makes the pie." "Maybe someday," Sam said. and Porter understood this was as much of a concession as he would get today. After Sam left, Porter opened his desk drawer and looked at the small box containing his father's Purple Heart and Bronze Star. Beside it lay another box containing the employee badge he'd had made for Sam with Chief Security Consultant engraved beneath his name. 2 days after their discussion about the ceremony, Porter arrived at the guest house to find the door ajar. Inside, drawers stood open, clothes missing. The military badge that usually sat on the nightstand was gone. Sam had disappeared. Panic seized Porter as he searched the house, calling Sam's name. In the bathroom, he found Sam's medications still lined up neatly, vital prescriptions now abandoned. A note sat propped against the pill bottles. "Thank you for everything. Some debts can't be repaid. S.W." Porter immediately called Emily. "Sam's gone. Alert security to watch for him at all transit points. Check the shelters downtown. And call Dr. Kazan." Sam left without his medications. For hours, Porter drove through Seattle's downtown, checking Sam's old haunts, the library, the shelter, the corner where they'd first met. No one had seen him. As evening approached, Porter received a call from his building's security team. "Sir, Mr. Williams used his badge to enter the office about 20 minutes ago." Relief flooded Porter, followed immediately by confusion. "Is he still there?" "Yes, sir. Went straight to his office. Security footage shows him looking distressed." "I'm on my way. Don't approach him, but don't let him leave." The Porter Tech building was nearly empty when Porter arrived. Most employees gone for the day. He found Sam in his small office, standing at the window. The duffel bag that had contained his worldly possessions for years sat on the floor beside him. "You scared me," Porter said from the doorway. Sam didn't turn. "Wasn't my intention. You left your medications. Realized that too late." Sam's voice sounded hollow. "Came here to leave you a proper resignation letter. Seemed more professional than a note." Porter entered the room slowly, as if approaching a wild animal. "Why are you leaving, Sam? This isn't real." Sam gestured vaguely around. "Him? None of it. The job. The house. The ceremony. It's a fantasy." "It's very real," Porter countered. "You've improved our security protocols more in 2 weeks than my team did in 2 years. Sam finally turned, his face haggard. "I woke up this morning and saw myself in the bathroom mirror. Know what I saw? A fraud. Playing dress-up in nice clothes, pretending to be something I'm not. What you are," Porter said carefully, "is a decorated veteran with valuable skills who deserves respect and recognition." Sam shook his head. "What I am is a homeless vet with 50 years of baggage who's been living in a dream world." His voice hardened. "I don't belong here, Porter. I don't belong in your guest house or your company or at some fancy Pentagon ceremony." Porter remained calm. "Where do you belong then?" The question seemed to catch Sam off guard. "I don't know anymore. Maybe nowhere." "The men in your unit," Porter said quietly, "the ones who didn't make it home, where do they belong in all this?" Sam flinched. "Don't use them against me." "I'm not. I'm asking a legitimate question." Porter moved closer. "You survived when they didn't. You've carried that weight for 50 years. Don't they deserve to have your story, their story, told properly? Their families got closure decades ago. Did they? Without knowing the full truth of what happened, without seeing the man who fought alongside their loved ones receive the recognition he earned." Porter shook his head. "That's not closure." Sam turned back to the window, but Porter could see his reflection, conflict, etched across his features. "You know why my father started that Veterans Foundation?" Porter continued. "He told my mother it was because coming home when others didn't was the heaviest burden he ever carried." Sound familiar? Sam's shoulders stiffened. "Your father talked about it?" "Not enough. He carried his own guilt until the day he died." Porter stepped beside Sam at the window. "Is that what you want? Another 20 years of running from ghosts?" For a long moment, neither man spoke. Then Sam sighed, a sound of bone-deep weariness. I don't know how to be this person you think I am. You already are that person, Porter said simply. You always have been. The world just forgot for a while. Maybe you did too. Sam stared at his reflection in the darkened window. What if I can't face it? The ceremony, the attention, the memories. Then we'll find another way to honor your service and your men. But running away isn't the answer. Porter gestured to the duffel bag. That bag holds what you think you deserve. I'm offering what you've earned. Sam's hand moved to his chest, where the military badge was pinned inside his jacket. I need time to think. Take all the time you need, but take your medications too. Porter reached into his pocket and pulled out the prescription bottles. And maybe think about it at the guest house, where it's warm and there's food in the refrigerator. A ghost of a smile touched Sam's lips. Persistent, aren't you? Like my father, apparently. Sam nodded slowly. I'll stay. For now. He picked up his duffel bag. But I'm not promising anything about that ceremony. One day at a time, Porter agreed, relief washing through him as they walked toward the elevator together. Sam remained wary about the ceremony, but as Porter had hoped, he didn't flee again. Their routine resumed. Work at Porter Tech, medical appointments, quiet evenings in the guest house. Porter gave Sam space, not mentioning the Pentagon's increasingly interested calls. Then, 3 weeks after Sam's attempted departure, Porter arrived at the guest house carrying a large manila envelope. Mail for you, he said casually, handing it to Sam. Sam took the envelope with obvious suspicion. I don't get mail. You do now. Sam opened it carefully, sliding out several photographs and a handwritten letter. As he examined the first photo, his hand began to tremble. It showed a group of elderly men standing beneath a banner reading 5th Special Forces Group Vietnam Veterans Reunion. How did you... Sam looked up, stunned. Emily found their association online. I reached out, mentioned. Your name? Porter smiled. Apparently you're something of a legend among them. Sam shuffled through the photos, his expression a mixture of disbelief and recognition. Thompson, Davis, Martinez. They're still alive? 7 members of your old unit are. They meet annually. Porter sat across from Sam. They've been looking for you for decades. Sam unfolded the letter with unsteady hands, reading silently. His stoic facade cracked as he reached the end, a single tear tracking down his weathered cheek. They want to see me, he whispered. They're coming to Seattle next week, all 7 of them. Porter leaned forward. No ceremony, no Pentagon, no press, just your brothers in arms. Sam stared at the photos, touching faces gently. I thought they'd all be gone by now. They thought the same about you until recently. For several minutes, Sam sat silently, overwhelmed. Finally, he looked up. Did you tell them? Only that you're alive and working with me. The rest is your story to tell. The day of the reunion arrived with unusual sunshine bathing Seattle. Porter had arranged a private room at an upscale restaurant near the waterfront, with security ensuring complete privacy. Sam dressed carefully in his best suit, pinning his military badge to his lapel for the first time since Porter had known him. You don't have to stay, Sam told Porter as they drove to the restaurant. I know, but I'd like to, if you'll allow it. These men knew my father. Sam nodded, tension evident. In every line of his body, they arrived early, Sam pacing the private room as they waited. When the door finally opened, time seemed to stand still. 7 men entered, all in their 70s like Sam, some using canes or walkers, one in a wheelchair. For a moment, no one moved. Then the man in the wheelchair propelled himself forward. Williams? Sam Williams? Sam stepped forward. Davis? The one and only. Davis extended a gnarled hand, which Sam clasped in both of his. My God, you stubborn son of a gun! We thought you were dead. The stillness broke. The men surrounded Sam, embracing him, clapping his shoulders, some openly weeping. Porter retreated to a corner, witnessing a reunion 50 years in the making. "You look like hell, Williams," one man joked through tears. "Still better looking than you, Thompson," Sam responded, a genuine smile transforming his face. They settled around the table, immediately falling into the rhythm of men who had once depended on each other for survival. Sam sat straighter than Porter had ever seen him, years seeming to fall away as he reconnected with his past. "We heard you were MIA, then a POW, Davis said. "Then nothing, like you vanished." "Wanted it that way," Sam admitted. "Coming back was difficult. For all of us," another veteran nodded. "But we had each other. Where were you, brother?" Slowly, hesitantly, Sam began to share his story. The painful recovery, the failed attempts to reintegrate, the gradual slide into isolation, and eventually homelessness. The men listened without judgment, occasionally nodding in recognition of struggles they'd either experienced or witnessed. "We looked for you," Thompson said. "Every reunion, we'd ask if anyone had heard from Williams." "The Williams who saved our asses in Laos," Davis added, glancing at Porter. "Your father was there. He never gave up looking either." Sam's head snapped. "Up. What?" Davis nodded. "Bill Porter. Contacted our association every year asking about you. Said he owed you his life." "He tried to find me after I was rescued," Sam said quietly. "I pushed him away. He understood why," Davis said. "He told us what you went through. Said sometimes men need space to heal." Porter listened, pieces of his father's life falling into place. The annual checks to the Veterans Association that had continued until his death. The toast he'd make every November to absent friends. As the afternoon progressed, a faded photograph emerged from Thompson's wallet. The original unit, young and strong, arms around each other's shoulders before deployment. Sam stood in the center next to William Porter. "Still carry this," Thompson said, "to remember the ones who didn't come back." Sam stared at his younger self, then at the elderly men around him, the survivors, the brothers who had never forgotten him. "The ceremony," he said suddenly, looking at Porter. "I'll do it, not for me, for them." He gestured to the photograph. "For all of them." When Sam committed to the ceremony, Porter's team moved with swift efficiency. The Pentagon set a date 3 weeks out. Enough time for preparations, but not so long that Sam might reconsider. The ceremony would be held at Joint Base Lewis McChord, with full military honors but limited to invited guests, respecting Sam's desire to avoid excessive publicity. "You'll need a proper uniform," Porter mentioned one evening as they reviewed the ceremony details. Sam looked up from the paperwork. "Don't have one anymore. We can get one made. Emily has arranged for a military tailor to come tomorrow." The tailor arrived promptly, an elderly veteran himself who treated Sam with quiet respect as he took measurements. Sam stood rigidly, the muscle memory of military bearing evident as the tailor worked. "Green beret, sir?" the tailor asked, noticing Sam's military badge. "5th Group," Sam confirmed. The tailor nodded appreciatively. "My brother was 7th Group, different theater, same brotherhood." When the tailor finished, Sam seemed relieved. "Never thought I'd wear the uniform again. Second chances come in unexpected ways," Porter observed. The next challenge was more delicate, preparing Sam for the public recognition he'd avoided for decades. Porter arranged for a retired military psychologist who specialized in PTSD to help Sam process the emotions the ceremony might trigger. "It's going to feel overwhelming," the psychologist warned during their session. "The key is to stay anchored in the present. Remember why you're doing this." Sam nodded. "For my men, the ones who didn't come back." "Exactly. This is their recognition, too." As the ceremony approached, Sam grew increasingly tense. Porter found him one morning staring at his reflection in the guest house bathroom, practicing standing at attention. "You look like you're preparing for an infiltration," Porter commented. "In some ways I am." Sam smoothed his shirt. "Entering hostile territory. You won't be alone. I'll be there. So will your unit brothers." Sam's eyes met Porter's in the mirror. "Your father should be here for this," The comment caught Porter off guard. He would have been proud to see it. No. Sam shook his head. He deserved the recognition too. He got those men out while I created the diversion. He received his commendations, Porter said gently. Bronze Star, Purple Heart. Not the same. Sam turned from the mirror. We should practice what to expect at the ceremony. I don't want to embarrass myself or dishonor the unit. They spent that afternoon reviewing the ceremony protocol. Sam was especially concerned about the moment he would receive the Medal of Honor. The president usually presents it, he said, frowning. A representative will be there, Porter assured him. They've been very accommodating about your privacy concerns. 2 days before the ceremony, Catherine Porter arrived carrying a carefully preserved box. I found something you should have, she told Sam, opening the box to reveal a pristine beret with the Special Forces insignia. Bill kept it all these years. He would want you to have it. Sam stared at the beret, then at Catherine. Ma'am, I can't accept this. You can and you will, she said firmly. My husband owed you his life, Samuel Williams. This family owes you everything. After a moment's hesitation, Sam gently took the beret. Thank you. The day before the ceremony, Sam's new uniform arrived, perfectly tailored, with spaces for the medals he would receive. Sam tried it on, transforming before Porter's eyes from a security consultant to the soldier he had once been. How does it feel? Porter asked. Like someone else's skin, Sam admitted, but not in a bad way. That evening, they sat on the guest house porch, watching the sunset in companionable silence. Sam seemed lost in thought, occasionally touching the Special Forces pin on the beret beside him. Nervous? Porter finally asked. Terrified, Sam admitted with surprising candor. Not of the ceremony itself, of what comes after. What do you mean? Sam gestured vaguely. All these years, I've been defined by what happened in Laos, first as a POW, then as a forgotten veteran. After tomorrow, that chapter closes. He looked at Porter. Who am I, then? Porter considered the question carefully. Whoever you choose to be. That's what second chances are for. Sam nodded slowly. Your father never got to see me receive this. A medal. No, but I think he knew your worth without it. Porter hesitated, then added, There's something I've been meaning to ask. Would you be willing to say a few words at the ceremony? About the men who didn't make it back? Sam's expression tightened, but he didn't immediately refuse. I'm not much for public speaking. Just a few words. For them. I'll think about it, Sam said, which Porter had come to recognize as Sam's way of saying yes when he wasn't quite ready to commit. As night fell, Sam stood to go inside. One more thing, he said, turning to Porter. Tomorrow, I'd like you to wear your father's dog tags. Seems fitting that he be there somehow. Porter touched the tags he still wore beneath his shirt. I will, I promise. The morning of the ceremony dawned clear and bright, unusual for Seattle in autumn. Porter woke early, his father's dog tags cool against his skin. When he arrived at the guest house, he found Sam already dressed in his full uniform, standing at rigid attention before the mirror. At ease, soldier, Porter said gently. You look ready. Sam turned, and Porter was struck by the transformation. The uniform, the polished shoes, the military bearing. This was the Sam Williams who had gone to war, not the man who had been counting pennies on a street corner months ago. Your father's beret, Sam said, indicating the Special Forces beret, perfectly positioned on his head. Porter nodded, emotion unexpectedly tightening his throat. He would be honored. The drive to Joint Base Lewis McCord passed in thoughtful silence. At the gate, military police saluted Sam, recognizing the uniform and the occasion. They were escorted to a reception area where Sam's former unit brothers waited, all in their own uniforms, all standing a little straighter at Sam's arrival. Looking sharp, Williams, Davis called from his wheelchair, his own chest heavy with medals. Sam's tension visibly eased among these men who understood what the day truly meant. Porter stepped back, allowing them their private moments of camaraderie and remembrance. The ceremony itself was to be held in the base theatre, more intimate than a parade ground but still formal. As they entered through a side door, Porter caught his first glimpse of the attendees: high-ranking military officers, government officials, a small press contingent kept at a respectful distance, and families. Many families. Who are all these? People, Sam whispered, suddenly pale. Porter squeezed his shoulder reassuringly. Families of your unit members, both those still living and those who didn't return. They wanted to be here. Understanding dawned on Sam's face as he scanned the crowd. These were the sons, daughters, and grandchildren of the men he had served with, living legacies of the Brotherhood. A military aide approached. 5 minutes, Sergeant Williams. Sam nodded, squaring his shoulders. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a folded paper. I wrote something for the men. His hand trembled slightly as he offered it to Porter. Tell me if it's appropriate. Porter read the simple, powerful words Sam had written. No flowery language, just heartfelt truth about honor, sacrifice, and brotherhood. It's perfect, he said, returning the paper. They would be proud. The ceremony began with military precision. The color guard, the national anthem, the formal reading of the citation for Sam's Distinguished Service Cross. Sam stood at attention, face impassive, but eyes alert as the Deputy Secretary of Defense approached with the medal for extraordinary heroism in connection with military operations against an armed hostile force. The citation detailed Sam's actions in Laos, the lives he had saved, the sacrifice he had made. As the medal was pinned to his chest, Sam remained stoic, but Porter could see the emotion he contained. Then came the moment everyone had awaited. The Secretary of the Army stepped forward with a small case. The President of the United States, authorized by Act of Congress, March 3, 1863, has awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Sergeant First Class Samuel J. Williams. The theater fell silent as the nation's highest military honor was reverently placed around Sam's neck. No photographer's flash disturbed the solemnity of the moment. This was not a media event, but a long overdue recognition. Sergeant Williams has requested to say a few words, the secretary announced, stepping aside. Sam approached the podium slowly, carefully unfolding his prepared remarks. He looked out at the audience, at the families, at his unit brothers, and at Porter and Catherine in the front row. This medal doesn't belong to me alone, he began, his voice steady. It belongs to every man who served in that jungle, to those who came home, and especially to those who didn't. He spoke their names, each of the fallen from his unit, 16 men in total. With each name, his voice grew stronger, more certain. They were brothers, they were heroes, they deserved to be remembered. Sam paused, emotion finally cracking through his composure. I stand here today because of them and because of Lieutenant William Porter, who led us with courage and brought our men home. Porter felt his mother's hand grip his arm tightly at the mention of his father. For 50 years, I tried to forget, Sam continued. But today I ask that we all remember. Remember their sacrifice, remember their courage, remember that freedom isn't free, and some pay the ultimate price. Sam looked directly at the families. Your fathers, grandfathers, uncles, they were the finest men I ever knew. It was my honor to serve with them. He stepped back from the podium, saluted sharply, and returned to his position with military precision. There was a moment of profound silence before the theater erupted in applause. As the formal ceremony concluded, families approached Sam, daughters hugging the man who had served with their fathers, grandchildren shaking the hand of a living legend from a war that to them was ancient history. For each, Sam had a story, a memory, a connection to their lost loved one. Porter watched from a distance, his father's dog tags warm now against his skin. Sam caught his eye across the room and nodded once, a gesture of profound gratitude and shared understanding. Whatever came next, this chapter had finally been closed with honor. The ceremony changed everything. A photo of Sam receiving the Medal of Honor, dignity etched in every line of his face, made the front page of newspapers nationwide. His story, the hero forgotten for 5 decades, now recognized, resonated deeply with the public. Porter watched with interest as interview requests flooded in. Sam declined most, but agreed to a few with veterans' publications. He spoke not of his own heroism, but of his fallen comrades, and the struggles veterans faced upon returning home. "We have to do more," Sam told Porter one evening, a month after the ceremony. They sat in Porter's study, Sam's Medal of Honor and Distinguished Service Cross displayed in a case on the desk. Sam's concession to Porter's insistence that they shouldn't be hidden away. "More than the ceremony?" Porter asked. "For veterans, especially homeless vets." Sam leaned forward. "I got lucky. You found me. What about the thousands like me who are still out there?" Porter considered this. His father's foundation had originally focused on veterans before shifting to broader causes after his death. "What do you have in mind?" Sam pulled out a folder containing meticulously organized notes. "A comprehensive program, not just housing. That's been tried. We need job training, medical care, psychological support, and community. A holistic approach." Porter leafed through the pages, impressed by the thoroughness. "You've given this serious thought." "Had 50 years to think about what might have helped me," Sam said simply. The blueprint in Porter's hands was remarkable, leveraging corporate resources to create a supportive ecosystem for veterans transitioning from homelessness to self-sufficiency. Sam had identified specific barriers he'd faced and proposed practical solutions for each. "Porter could fund the initial program," Porter said thoughtfully. "We could partner with the VA, establish a pilot in Seattle, and with other corporations," Sam added, "create a model that can be replicated nationally." Porter studied Sam, noting the passion that had replaced the resignation he'd once worn like a second skin. "You'd want to lead this? Who better?" Sam's response held no arrogance, just practical assessment. "I've lived it from both sides now." The next morning, Porter called an emergency board meeting. Emily arranged for Sam to present his proposal, the first time the board would hear directly from the man whose story had begun to transform the company's culture. Sam arrived in a suit rather than uniform, but with the quiet authority he'd carried since the ceremony. As board members settled around the conference table, Porter noticed their curious glances. Sam's story had made him something of a celebrity within Porter Tech. "Ladies and gentlemen," Porter began, "I've asked Sergeant Williams to present a proposal that aligns with our corporate responsibility goals while addressing a critical national issue." Sam stood, distributing copies of his presentation. "Thank you for your time today. What I'm proposing is the Porter Tech Veterans Initiative, a comprehensive program to help homeless veterans rebuild their lives." For the next 20 minutes, Sam outlined his vision with clarity and conviction. He spoke of the approximately 40,000 veterans experiencing homelessness nationwide, the barriers to reintegration, and the cost, both human and economic, of failing to address the issue. "Many of these men and women served honorably," Sam concluded. "They carried out their missions. Now they need a new mission, one that restores their dignity and purpose." When Sam finished, the boardroom remained silent for a moment. Then the CFO spoke up. The financial commitment would be substantial. "What's the return on investment?" Before Porter could intervene, Sam answered directly. "Sir, when I was on that street corner counting pennies, my return on investment was survival for another day. But if you want metrics, reduced public health costs, decreased emergency services utilization, productive tax-paying citizens returning to the workforce, and the incalculable value of saved lives." Sam paused. "Plus the PR value of being the corporation that decided veterans matter." The CFO had the grace to look chastened. Other board members began asking more substantive questions: implementation timelines, staffing requirements, success metrics. Sam answered each with authority born of lived experience. Porter watched with pride as his board, initially skeptical, became increasingly engaged. By meeting's end, they voted unanimously to approve Phase 1 funding for what would officially be named the William Porter Veterans Initiative. As they left the boardroom, Sam seemed almost dazed by the outcome. They actually approved it. Of course they did, Porter replied. It's solid, it's needed, and you made them see the men and women behind the statistics. Sam shook his head in wonder. From counting pennies to counting millions for a foundation, life takes strange turns. Second chances, Porter reminded him. The following week they broke ground on the initiative's first facility, a renovated Porter Tech warehouse converted into transitional housing with on-site services. Sam insisted on a simple design that emphasized dignity and functionality over institutional aesthetics. As they toured the construction site, Sam stopped before the blueprint displayed at the entrance. It showed not just housing, but classrooms, medical facilities, counseling spaces, and a memorial garden dedicated to fallen service members. "This is really happening," Sam said quietly. Porter nodded. "And it's just the beginning." 1 year after Sam and Porter first counted pennies together on a rain-slicked sidewalk, the William Porter Veterans Initiative celebrated its grand opening. The converted warehouse had become a beacon of hope, a facility that had already welcomed 57 homeless veterans into its transitional housing program. Sam stood at the podium, his once gaunt frame filled out, his bearing confident as he addressed the gathered crowd of corporate sponsors, veterans advocates, and media. "A year ago, I was counting pennies on that corner," Sam said, pointing to the intersection visible from the facility's entrance. "Today, we are counting lives changed. That's the only metric that matters." The initiative had expanded beyond Porter's initial vision. 3 additional corporations had joined Porter Tech, contributing resources and job opportunities. The VA had streamlined services for program participants. What had begun as Sam's desperate plea not to be forgotten had evolved into a national model for veteran reintegration. After the ceremony, Sam and Porter walked through the facility, stopping to speak with residents, men and women of various ages, all bearing the invisible wounds of service and subsequent struggles. "Martinez moved into his own apartment last week," Sam told Porter, pointing to a photo on the success wall showing a beaming veteran holding apartment keys. "Got a job in cybersecurity with that training program your team developed." Porter nodded. "Emily says he's one of their most promising new hires." They continued to the memorial garden, a peaceful space where residents could reflect and remember. The centerpiece was a simple stone monument inscribed with, "For those who served, remembered, respected, restored." "This is my favorite spot," Sam admitted. "Reminds everyone why we're doing this." Later that evening, Porter hosted a small private dinner at his home to celebrate the milestone. Catherine attended, along with Emily, several key Porter Tech executives, and 4 of Sam's unit brothers who had remained in close contact. As they enjoyed dessert, Davis raised his glass. To Sam, still saving lives, just a different battlefield. Sam shook his head, embarrassed by the attention. "The initiative is a team effort." "Speaking of the initiative," Porter interjected, "there's something I haven't told you, Sam." He nodded to Emily, who distributed folders to everyone at the table. "What's this?" Sam asked, opening his folder to find architectural renderings. "Phase 2, Porter explained. "The board approved it yesterday. 3 more facilities, Chicago, San Diego, and Houston, all based on your model." Sam stared at the plans, visibly moved. "This soon? I thought maybe in a few years." "The success metrics were too compelling to wait," Emily explained. 87% of our participants have remained stably housed. 72% have secured employment. The medical cost savings alone justified expansion. And, Porter added, 4 more corporations have committed to the consortium. They're sending representatives next month to learn the model." Sam sat back, overwhelmed. "I never imagined—" "You should have," Catherine said warmly. "William always said you were the most strategic thinker in the unit. He'd be so proud to see his name on something this meaningful." The conversation flowed late into the evening. As guests began to depart, Porter noticed Sam slip away to the terrace. He followed, finding the older man gazing at the Seattle skyline. "Everything okay?" Porter asked. Sam nodded. "Just needed a moment. It's a lot to take in." "Too much?" "No." Sam turned to him. "I spent decades trying to forget the war, forget who I was. Now I'm using those experiences to help others. Seems fitting somehow." Porter leaned against the railing, beside him. "You know, you never did tell me what happened after you left the hospital, after you refused to see my father again." Sam was quiet for a long moment. "I was angry, at the war, at the world, at myself for surviving when others didn't. Easiest to be angry at your father. He represented everything I'd lost. The future I should have had. And now," Sam gestured toward the city, "now I see that we all have different paths. Your father's led him to create you. Mine led me here to this moment." He smiled slightly, "Took the scenic route, but I arrived." Before Porter could respond, Sam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small jar, the same one he'd used to collect pennies on the street. Now it held a single penny. "My first penny," Sam explained. "Kept it as a reminder of where I started. Been thinking it's time for a new collection." He handed the jar to Porter. "For the initiative. First donation for Phase 2. Porter took the jar, its single penny catching the evening light. "You know we have corporate sponsors with $1 million commitments. And they'll never understand the value of one penny when it's all you have," Sam replied. "Display it somewhere in the new facilities. Remind everyone that every journey begins with a single step, or in my case, a single penny." Porter pocketed the jar carefully. "I have something for you too." He reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. "The deed to the guest house. It's yours now." Sam started to protest, but Porter raised a hand. "Before you object, it's not charity. It's recognition that everyone needs roots, a place to call home. You've given hundreds of veterans a chance at that. You deserve the same." Sam accepted the envelope, emotions playing across his weathered face. "Thank you, James, for everything." "No," Porter said softly. "Thank you, Sam, for my father's life, for mine, and now for all the lives you're changing." 5 years passed in a blur of purpose and achievement. The William Porter Veterans Initiative expanded to 15 cities nationwide, becoming the gold standard for veteran reintegration programs. Sam, now 75, had traded his security, consultant role for full-time leadership of the initiative, though he still maintained an office at Porter Tech headquarters. The annual gala, celebrating the initiative's 5th anniversary, was held in Seattle's Grand Ballroom. Corporate leaders, politicians, military officials, and, most importantly, hundreds of program graduates filled the elegantly decorated space. Porter watched from the side as Sam, distinguished in a tailored tuxedo with his Medal of Honor discreetly visible on his lapel, navigated the room with ease. The transformation remained remarkable. From the homeless man counting pennies to this confident leader whose counsel was sought by generals and CEOs alike. "He's a natural," Catherine said, joining her son. At 77, she remained elegant and sharp, a steadfast supporter of both the initiative and Sam himself. "He always was," Porter replied. "The world just needed reminding." The formal program began with a video montage of the initiative's journey, starting with news footage of Sam receiving his medals, continuing through the first facility's opening, and culminating with testimonials from veterans whose lives had been transformed. When Sam took the stage for the keynote address, the ballroom fell silent. 5 years ago," he began, "a man stopped to help me count pennies on a rainy Seattle street. That act of simple humanity set in motion everything we celebrate tonight." Sam gestured to Porter in the audience. "James Porter didn't just give me a second chance. He helped me create second chances for thousands of veterans across this country. The statistics were impressive. Over 5,000 veterans housed, 4,000 employed, dramatic reductions in veteran suicide rates in communities with initiative facilities. But Sam focused on individual stories, naming graduates who had gone on to become counselors, program directors, and advocates themselves. The true measure of the initiative isn't in numbers, Sam continued. It's in the restored dignity I see in this room tonight. It's in the children who now have stable homes because their veteran parents found support. It's in the wisdom and experience of our nation's heroes being valued rather than forgotten. As Sam concluded his speech, he revealed the initiative's next phase, a scholarship program for children of homeless veterans, ensuring the cycle of hardship wouldn't continue to the next generation. We name this the Catherine Porter Scholarship Fund, Sam announced, honoring a woman who never forgot the debt we owe to those who serve and who taught her son the same value. Catherine gasped softly beside Porter as the crowd rose in a standing ovation. Later, as the formal proceedings gave way to dinner and conversation, Porter found Sam standing beside a display case near the entrance. Inside was the penny jar, Sam's. The first penny, now accompanied by thousands more, each contributed by a veteran entering the program. Started quite a collection, Porter observed, joining him. Sam nodded. Each one represents a life at a turning point, like mine was. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the room filled with success stories, men and women who had once been statistics, now leaders and contributors. I visited the old corner yesterday, Sam said suddenly. Where you found me. Feeling nostalgic? Feeling grateful? Sam turned to face Porter directly. I never properly thanked you. You've thanked me 1,000 times, Porter protested, not for the initiative or the guest house. Sam's voice grew serious. For seeing me when I was invisible. For counting those pennies with me when everyone else walked past. Porter felt unexpected emotion tighten his throat. You saved my father's life. Everything else flows from that. Maybe so. Sam smiled slightly. Funny how life circles around. Your father saved me by giving me a mission in Vietnam. You saved me by giving me a mission here at home. You've saved thousands in return, Porter said. A good investment, I'd say. Sam laughed, a full, genuine sound that had become more common over the years. Always the businessman. They were interrupted by a young veteran approaching somewhat hesitantly. Sergeant Williams, I just wanted to shake your hand, sir. I graduated from the Houston facility last year. As Sam engaged with the young man, Porter stepped back, watching the interaction with satisfaction. His father's journal had described Sam as a natural leader, someone men would follow anywhere. That quality had never disappeared. It had merely waited for the right mission. The evening wound down, guests gradually departing with renewed commitment to the cause. As Porter and Sam walked out into the clear Seattle night, Sam paused to look up at the stars. You know what I think about sometimes? Sam said quietly. Those boys who didn't make it back from Laos, I wonder if they'd be proud of what their sacrifice ultimately led to. I think they would, Porter replied with certainty. Sam nodded, his medal catching the moonlight as he turned. So do I. That's the real legacy, not the medals or the buildings or even the veterans we help. It's honoring their memory by living, lives worthy of their sacrifice. They continued walking, two men connected by war, chance, and choice, and by the simple, profound act of counting pennies together on a rainy Seattle street.